Hey guys, I know that we've probably never met before. There's a few of us that may have, but my name's Cameron. I am a minister here, probably just about 20 minutes away from y'all down in Lafayette. And if we're just gonna be honest, over the next couple of nights, I don't, I don't know you. I don't know your situation or your life story or your background or where you came from. And to be fair, if we're gonna reciprocate that, you don't really know me all that well either, other than I'm just some guy that has come to you over these videos that's gonna talk to you for a little bit about Exodus. We're gonna talk for a little bit about Moses, and in the next few nights, what I'd like for us to do, because if I'm looking from the outside in, if I'm looking at y'all's VBS, working through Exodus, working through some of the main events in Moses' life, like that is textbook. That is Church of Christ textbook VBS, going to be something that you've probably heard about before, something that nevertheless I hope you still get excited about. But what we're going to see, and what I hope that we can do, is take off the I've heard this story or worked through this story 1,000 times. Flip that lens off and instead place on something that is going to be a little bit deeper. And for us to see God a little bit better, understand His hand through all this a little bit better, and then probably the most important part of any of it, see what difference that makes for us, what difference that makes for our life, for our faith, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Because whether you know it or not, you're at a stage where the next 10 years a lot's going to change. And so the grounding that we have, that we're hopefully going to find from Exodus 4 this evening, is going to have an impact in that. So if you have a Bible, I hope that you have a Bible. If not, you've got to have a phone or something where you can get a hold of a Bible. Flip over to Exodus chapter 4. Exodus chapter 4, and we're going to be looking through verse 27 to about 31. Exodus 4, 27 to 31. And we're going to be looking at the 10 plagues. And when we think about the 10 plagues, you think, actually, I even had a vacation Bible school growing up at Union Hill in Western Kentucky, little church centered around the 10 plagues. I remember my mom decorating her classroom. It was covered in frogs because of the plague of frogs and that second one. And when we think about the 10 plagues, well, the question that I want us to answer this evening, or what I want us to think about and look at, is the fact that God didn't just create 10 plagues and didn't just cast 10 plagues for the sake of 10 plagues. It wasn't just for the fact that, look at what I can do. I can turn your water into blood and cover you in flies and make everything go dark because I'm God and I created the sun and I can flip that sucker like a switch. It wasn't about that, or it wasn't at least just about that. There was a purpose as to why God did what He did, and that's what I hope that we really uncover. So at this point, hopefully you've turned with me to Exodus 4. Looking at verse 27, it says, "Now the Lord said to Aaron, 'Go to meet Moses in the wilderness.' And he went and he met him at the mountain of God, and he kissed him. And Moses told Aaron all the words of the Lord with which He had sent him, and all the signs that He had commanded him to do. Then Moses and Aaron went and assembled all the elders of the sons of Israel. And Aaron spoke all the words with which the Lord had spoken to Moses. He then performed the signs in the sight of the people." Verse 31, "So the people believed. And when they heard that the Lord was concerned about the sons of Israel, and that He had seen their affliction, then they bowed low and they worshipped." Now, I want you to do something with me. Let's imagine for a second that we have grown up in the life of one of these Israelites. And what we just read is right on the cusp of all of these plagues about to take place. This is where chapter 3, Moses has just seen the burning bush. He's just gone to get Aaron. You remember he did the back and forth with God of, I'm not that good at speaking. I can't really do this. And God said, "Fine, you big baby, go get Aaron, and y'all are going to do it anyway." And so he goes, he gets Aaron. They have this dialogue. They plan everything out. And then they take it back to the people so that Israel can know before these plagues happen that God's hand is in it, and so that they can know the purpose. Okay, now let's go to the context. Let's go to where the people of Israel have come from. Take it back to Genesis. Take it back to the story of Joseph. Take it back to him growing to power, coming to power, starting his family in Egypt. And so you have generations after generations that go and they pass, and for whatever reason, almost as if there was a divine hand in it, Joseph's family is growing huge. It's growing quickly. And each generation is telling these stories to their children back and forth of, you've never met him, but you have a great-great-great-great-granddaddy named Abraham, and he has had a promise from God. And so this entire handing down of generations of this story of where we were promised, our family, our bloodline was promised, we were going to be God's people. We were going to be his possession. We were going to be the ones that he gave special favor to, the ones that he gave these promises to. We were them. But then, as generations pass, and as things change, and as tides turn, you grow up and you realize, but wait, we're enslaved now. Things have not played out in the same way that Granddaddy told me the story would go. And we're sitting here, we're slaves to these Egyptians, these pagans, and you spend your entire life hearing that there's a God, knowing that there's a God, knowing that he's even supposed to be your God and you're supposed to be his people. But it seems like the ones being blessed are the ones that are not following God. The ones that are being blessed and given all this favor and all these great, nice, grand things and building all these great structures, they're following all these other gods. Why am I being punished while they're being glorified when they're supposed to be the dirty, rotten pagans? I'm supposed to be the one that's following the one true God, and you spend your entire life and think for a minute, you're enslaved. And you're spending day in and day out working for somebody else, doing what you're not supposed to. It's a lot of time to think. It's a lot of time to think, and a lot of time to think about how maybe God has forsaken you, forsaken your people, forsaken us if we're putting ourselves in their shoes. But then God comes through Moses and Aaron with this message. This message that is going to be validated by all of these different, what we call plagues, these different signs, these different wonders. They're just downright miracles is what they are. And God is going to use them for a couple different purposes. And one of the greatest ones that he does is he uses it to get the Israelites' attention and gain the Israelites' trust. Now what you're going to see, once we leave Exodus chapter 4, we go through 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we see all of these plagues unveil. And you know how the story goes. Remember, that's the beauty of talking about what we are talking about this evening, is because we've all mostly heard the story before of how Pharaoh says, all right, fine, make it stop. I'll let him go. And then it stops. And he says, well, psych, I'm going to keep you as my slaves anyway. And so the cycle starts over again. But here's what I want you to see, is that every single time that one of these plagues would take place, the Egyptians had some certain God that was supposed to be in control of whatever it was that God was messing with. And the Egyptian gods were supposed to be in control of it in the Egyptians' favor. So what that means is that they had a God. When our Lord Yahweh Jehovah turned the Nile into blood, they had a God, Hapi, H-A-P-I, that was supposed to be over the Nile River, that blessed them with and through the Nile River. When God came and brought all of these livestock to death, they had a God that they praised and sacrificed to named Hathor that was supposed to be over all of their livestock, that was supposed to bless all of their livestock. Whether it was the locust or the hail or the darkness, they even had the one that we may have even heard of before. If you've seen Night at the Museum, I hope that you have. If not, go watch it after this. You have plenty of time. We know the Egyptian god Ra that was supposed to be over the entire sun. God said, yeah, I can turn that off pretty quick. Ra's not in control, Egypt. Ra's not the one that made this sun, Egypt. I am. And as the Egyptians were scattering and they were trying to figure out what are we going to do, they were offering to these gods. They were praying to these gods. They were crying out to these gods who didn't deliver. And for the first time, Israel was seeing their God at work. And for the first time, Israel was seeing these gods that we thought were blessing these Egyptians so much aren't so real after all. Maybe there is someone greater. Maybe there is a God greater that is in control of all of this. And as their trust grew in him, they didn't know it yet, But God knew in the back of his mind as all of this was happening, he's thinking, I'm glad your trust is growing, Israel, because what we're about to go through together, you're going to need it. You're going to need it. And so, imagine, in a matter of a few days, in a matter of a few weeks, the course of all these plagues happening, now you're an Egyptian. And all of our idolatry has just been brought to the ground. It's just been crumbled. Everything that I've devoted my life to, every God I've ever worshipped, every sacrifice I've ever made, is all for nothing because these slave people, their God has come in and shook everything up like a bottle of Coke and some Mentos. And so, what is happening right now? What is happening right now? Our idolatry is being brought to its knees. I know you've heard a lot about Corona. I know you've heard a lot about COVID. And if you haven't, just go turn on the news and watch for 5 seconds. What we've experienced and what you guys have experienced is some trying stuff. I understand there were stages y'all were supposed to walk across. There were seasons y'all were supposed to have. There were interactions, events, and big major things that were supposed to happen that COVID took away from you. Corona took away from you. But one of the first things that I pointed out with our youth group here, and something that I hope that maybe you've already seen, and if not, I hope you see it by the end of this lesson, is that through the course of Corona, our nation's idolatry was brought to its knees. And we were shown so quickly all of these things that we invest so much in and worship so much in can be turned off and taken away and done away with just as quickly as God darkened out the sun in Egypt. As a high schooler or a middle schooler or a teen or whatever place you find yourself in, I remember I was there. You can probably tell I'm not that old. I've been there. And I remember the idolatry that I had in sports. Like, I know as well as y'all do, especially because Benton, Kentucky is pretty similar to Tompkinsville, Kentucky in a lot of ways, that if ball is life, like you're gonna do a sport, you're gonna live it. I've been there, I've done it, I've invested in it. It might be popularity. It might be popularity or that social aspect of being loved by people. If you have no idea because you don't know me, the person that you're looking at right now, that I spent a big majority of my teen years making my idol being loved, accepted, and taken in by people. I wanted to be in that crowd of people. I wanted all of them to be looking, smiling, and laughing at me, what I was saying, what I was doing. I love the attention. I get it. I've been there. No more school, no more social interaction. 6 feet makes it pretty hard to do that. Maybe it's having that job, making that money, getting to buy that stuff from my truck. Maybe it's doing that can't work anymore. My job's not essential. I just worked part-time with so-and-so and I can't do that. I don't know what it could be. That here's a good one, that relationship. That, they're the cutest I've ever seen in the entire world, and I love having a text message conversation, an Instagram DM, and a Snapchat conversation going with them all at the same time. And we run out of things to talk to after 3 hours because we have 3 conversations going at once, but they're just so adorable. That relationship doesn't do all too well when I'm long distancing it, even though I'm only 6 minutes away. All these things that we idolize and all these things that we invest in, whether we notice it or not, Corona has brought an end to it. And we think to ourselves, we don't do that. We don't do idol worship. I don't have a shrine or a temple. I don't make sacrifices or pray to any other God. I go to church every Sunday. My God is the one true God. Yeah. But how often and I'm asking myself as much as I'm asking y'all, how often do our actions speak a very different story and a very different testament? Because our slavery is quite different than the slavery that the Egyptians might have found themselves in. Our slavery might be to these very things that we're worshiping spiritually, that are pulling us in so many different directions, that are taking away from where the one true emphasis probably ought to be, and that's our relationship with God, and us looking a little bit further than the immediate gratification 5 minutes from now, and looking down the road a little bit to our eternity. And so I guess as we bring all this together and we wrap all this together in Exodus chapter 4, I ask, what might our idols be? That's a fair question. What might our idols be? And then, how have we seen God work in the past few months to show us just how temporary those idols are? And in doing that, how might that usher us a little bit towards them? I'm going to leave it on a cliffhanger for a couple reasons. One is because we want you to come back tomorrow evening. We want you to see what the next step in this process that we're about to walk through Exodus is. And two, I really can't think of a second. So we're going to close there. We're going to end there. And I hope to see y'all. Read Exodus 14 between now and tomorrow evening to help better prepare spiritually. And I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful that you took time to be here. I hope you take time to be here tomorrow night. See y'all later.